Hi there, I'm Benton Calder. I'm here at Metabridge 2015, and I am speaking with the man, the legend, the myth, Paul Singh, Managing Director of 1776.
Hey
Paul, thank you
man,
so much for sitting down with
good to be
me
here.
and talking with us here. Paul Singh, you're working at 1776. Why don't you explain to our audience what that is?
Yeah, we are a lot of things actually. So we've got an incubator, we've got a venture fund, we've got a lot of events that we put on. In the broadest of strokes, what I would say is that when you think about the venture or the entrepreneur community as a funnel, on the top end of that funnel, we provide a lot of education and events for people that are aspiring to be entrepreneurs or have like bit the bullet and jumped in. And on the other end of the funnel, for the few that have gone on to build something that may be a venture scale business, we can actually invest directly in those companies.
Right on.
So we're sort of a little bit of everything. We're sort of the kitchen, the actual kitchen sink, if you will.
So you've been at a couple different venture capital kind of investment funds. You were at 500 Startups
Yep.
previously, and then you started
Disruption Corporation. Yep.
Disruption Corporation. So what kind of led you into that industry? I understand that at one point you were even a used car salesman.
I was, yeah. So this is. I'm warning you. This is a long answer.
Let's
But
do it. Let's do it. Let's get in here.
so I grew up just outside of DC, and my family, we weren't rich, we weren't poor, we were immigrants. And growing up, I was my family business was construction, so I was laying brick with my dad on the weekends and all that. Anyway, I turned 18, and this little store called CarMax opened, and it was a division of Circuit City. So now I'm like aging myself, but I'll just say like Circuit City's not around anymore, just so you guys know. But the thing is that it was a chance to like drive cars. That's what I thought it was going to be. Funny thing happened. I actually got good at car sales, so I still hold the record for number of cars sold per month. So I'm a used car salesman.
Nice.
But then to answer your question more specifically, I would say, up until around that time, my understanding of how you make a living was that you would trade time for money. So like even when I was laying brick, you'd get paid 35 cents a brick, right? Or you sold a car, you'd get a fixed rate of $150. So it was very, I will do this for you and you will give me that. When I was in college, I got an internship at America Online, which at that time, I mean, it was like the heyday. It was like, 99, 2000. And like, my understanding of America Online was that it was chat rooms and, I don't know, just instant messenger. And I remember going into the office, and I just had a very low level job moving boxes around and stuff like that. But what was really fascinating to me was that even on the days that nobody else was in the office, I'd sit there and like money would just be seemingly just coming out of these computers. And I was like, what do these people even do? This sounds amazing. And so that's when I kind of learned about technology. And so I jumped in, started a hosting company. We sold that in 2004. We built a bunch of data centers. Fun fact that I didn't realize till way after I sold the data centers is that, believe it or not, 50% of the world's internet traffic flows under those data centers today.
Oh man.
I wish I had known that back then. It turns out back then it was 70% of the world's internet traffic, but nobody ever told me that. So I could have charged more money for this. So that was 2004. 2004 to 2008, I, to be very honest with you, I kind of screwed around. I had jobs at big companies like Symantec, and then I tinkered with a lot of startup ideas that never really took off. In 2008, I went to Silicon Valley for the first time, and I started working at a company called PBWiki. I learned a lot. It was my first real exposure to venture capital and to Silicon Valley as a whole. In 2009, I left, started another company doing lead generation for blue collar guys. Got really fortunate and frankly very lucky and did a small exit in late 2009. And then I started doing angel investing, did 14 investments, and then hooked up with Dave McClure, who was my partner at 500 Startups. It was a small world. I was originally from the state of Virginia, or the Commonwealth of Virginia in the U.S., and he was from the state of Maryland, which is just right across the river. And so we had a lot of common friends. And anyway, that was now we're talking 2010, and I guess I would just say to you now, I would just say I tripped into the venture community. I tripped and stumbled into it, and I was really fortunate because we were on the front end of an industry that was changing so rapidly. I mean, it used to be an industry that was like big funds, old men, and like gatekeepers. And what we, I think, accidentally kind of discovered was that the economics were changing. We were going to be service providers, not just gatekeepers to money. And so that sort of led me to where I am now, which is like, I think, the venture capital portion of what I do is sort of the table stakes. It's something that we have to do just to keep the lights on. But I think the thing that really excites me about what we do is that, especially with this new, merger with 1776 that we completed 2 months ago, we can provide a lot of value to the founders that we fund. Everything from entrepreneurship and mentorship, but also access to the minds of political figures, right? If things get in the way. Anyway, I could keep rambling about this thing, but I think the future of venture capital really is a service industry now. And so when you think about what we do at 1776, all those things are there to not only help the community, but also to help the venture-funded founders that are around today.
Mm-hmm. So that was great, looking back and kind of looking at where you are now. Where are your sights set moving forward while being a managing director at 1776?
Well, I think, if anything, I just want to be more aggressive and more useful. The thing I think a lot about now is we obviously have the day-to-day operations that we have to worry about, right? So what are the deals in play at any given time? I'll tell you, just even for myself, I'll probably get something like 300 requests a week to look at something or get on the phone or whatever. And I clearly can't do that every week, but we try to cull that down to so there's this operational component of, how do you keep things moving? But I think when I look forward, the question really is how can I start bouncing ideas around with other smart people and figure out where they're thinking about going. 'Cause, the best way, this is a bad answer for you, by the way. Let me start over.
No, it's okay.
So before I got pulled into here, I was sitting down with a guy who's, here at Metabridge with me. And he's one of the foremost thinkers about angelless syndicates. And we were just sitting down having a beer and we were just talking about, well, hey, how do you think about integrating angelless syndicates into a fund structure, which is a very technical question with a lot of tax implications and a lot of LP considerations. And that's the kind of conversation, frankly, that I probably wouldn't normally be able to schedule. And that's one of the values of things like Metabridge is that there's smart people here, you catch them on the sidelines, you bounce some ideas around. But bringing it back to me, I'm thinking about how do I provide more value to my founders? How do I provide more value to my LPs? And conversations like that are really about how do we help our founders raise more money quickly using tools like syndicates? I wish I could be more specific for you.
No, that's great. And you're bringing up Metabridge, which is kind of leading into my next questions here. Steve Wandler is a huge fan of yours and a big proponent of yours, and he speaks very highly of you. And he kind of painted a picture in my mind that you were kind of like the savant of startups. And,
that's really kind.
It's Steve Wandler, but I've seen it in articles and read it. So it's awesome to hear all the great things that you have done and all the great things that you want to do with 1776. It's awesome. So leading into Metabridge, you were the keynote speaker here today or yesterday, and kind of the main attraction of this whole event. What was your initial feelings and thoughts about coming here, and what has been different than those?
Well, it's interesting. I've come to Metabridge a few times now, and I'm a big fan of Steve's, actually. So when Steve invited me up back again, I was going to come anyway, and then he said, hey, I'd love for you to do the keynote. And I think I said something along the lines of, okay, only on the condition that you put me on the first day, because I want to be able to enjoy all the other events and meet all the people on the second day. And so he was kind enough to make that happen. But I'll tell you, I enjoy these things. So first of all, this event, I think, is one of the most well-produced events I've seen anywhere outside of Silicon Valley, which is refreshing. I think the other thing, though, is that in the venture community, it's easy to forget that the best companies don't always start in Silicon Valley. In fact, anecdotally, I would say that very few companies actually start in the Valley. They all originate from somewhere else. I mean, if you go to Silicon Valley, it's almost a city of transients, right? It's people that have been brought in by a company or have moved there because of venture capital or whatever. So I find these kind of events super exciting because, look, the next unicorn founder might be sitting in that room, and there's no way for us to know. And that's a big reason why I spend a lot of time on the road. I probably only go to the Valley maybe once a quarter, but I'm in places like Kelowna. Even right before this, I flew here directly from Nashville, Tennessee, right, where you're looking for founders down there. I like to go to places where other VCs don't. I think that's a good rule for life too, right? It's like you never don't do what everybody else is doing. It's like if you see like more than 15 VCs in a single spot, you probably don't need to go there.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. It's been a pleasure. I just have one more question for you. What has been your favorite memory of Metabridge 2015?
Ooh. Favorite memory of Metabridge 2015 is getting punked on that interview up front. So in between one of the breaks, I think it was one of the volunteers came over and she said, "Hey, we've got these people here that want to interview you. Can you come up?" And so they pulled me and Mike McCauley and Kasim over, and we stood there, and it took us about 10 minutes to realize we were getting punked. So these people were asking things about it was just crazy. And I'll tell you, the moment where I realized that I was getting, that Steve was playing a joke on me, was they said, "Hey, you're known as the guy that is all about Moneyball investing, after the baseball theory and all that." I said, "Yeah, I guess so. That's me." And she goes, "So is it safe to say you have money balls?" And at that point, I realized what was happening. I was like, yes, absolutely. I have balls made of money. Yes. And then it got awkward really fast. But that was my favorite memory.
That's awesome.
I will say one thing on a serious note, though, which is that not to blow smoke up anybody's skirt or anything like that. I would just say that the quality of the pitches is getting so good, and I find that to be refreshing, and I find that to be a good sign of what's going to happen in places like Kelowna, and frankly what's going to happen in greater Canada, is that as access to information gets easier, meaning any of these founders here and anywhere can now see the pitch decks at 500 Startups. They can see video feeds of demo days at Y Combinator. They now know what their pitches have to look like. And if we look at what happened yesterday with all the pitches, I mean, the quality was just amazing. And it was good 3 years ago. It's really good now. And that makes me excited for, how good it's going to get next year. So Steve's got a good thing going here. I think, Metabridge has got a good thing going here. And I think Kelowna is lucky to have him and the entire team and Metabridge here.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much again for sitting down. I'm lucky to interview you.
Oh, my pleasure.
And so this has been Paul Singh, Managing Director of 1776. Thanks so much, Paul.
Thanks, man. This was fun.